Got a bit of a project here with my front yard garden. We, a couple of years ago, you might not be able to see it too well, but our front yard's not too big. It's about 30 feet long and maybe 10 feet wide. But this used to just be this gradual little dry, hard as a rock, weedy sloped area, right? Goes from the porch down to the sidewalk. We rent here, so they didn't put a lot of effort into making the front yard look very good. But we thought to ourselves, it's about time we make our front yard look half decent. So we turned this kind of just slopey, dirty area into what ended up being a nice succulent garden and needs quite a bit of work at the moment. So here's what happened. I mentioned that this was like just dirty and dry. It was hard as a rock. We wanted to turn it into a beautiful garden, but it took a lot of work. It's kind of just like our heads, hearts, our minds, our faith. It can potentially be a beautiful garden, but needs a lot of work and sometimes needs a specialist to go up, and you need another gardener to come in and take care of it. But as we planted things and as the garden kind of grew, I noticed something happened to the hard soil. Over here at the hose, I noticed that even while the succulents were growing, thankfully, no other weeds or grass was growing throughout the whole garden, which was great because I just wanted succulents. But I noticed in the hard soil, because after you tilled it, raked it, patted it, and the garden was existing for a while, the soil got hard again. But around the hose here, the faucet was dripping, and sometimes the hose would drip. And little grass and little weeds started to grow around the hose. The grass only grew where it was being watered in the hard soil. And something struck me, it's like, no matter how hard the soil is, if there's just a little bit of liquid, if there's just a little bit of desire from a mind, heart, or faith to grow, it's going to grow. Like, we don't always need a huge amount of fertile soil. We don't always need this deep, rich place for growth. I mean, we can get there, right? But sometimes if our mind and life is hard or struggling or suffering, but we just got a little bit of interest in growing and say, Lord, man, would you please water my hard soil? It's going to happen. So here's the other thing I noticed about this garden, though, and you'll be able to see how messy it is. It once was a really nice, clean area, right? Obviously, it's not anymore. And this is just after probably 3 or maybe 4 weeks of rain. This used to be all clear brown, had nice mulch in it, no problems whatsoever. But since I have not tended my garden, it's gotten messy. And you can probably already tell where I'm going with this. If we don't tend our garden, things grow that we don't want to grow there. So we've got this beautiful succulent garden, but there's tons of weeds, tons of grass, tons of clovers that I have no interest being in there. And so it's kind of taking over the garden. And I haven't tended this garden for so long that the other day I started to kind of pick some weeds. Get out of the sun here. Started to pick some weeds, and I found, I'm not going to show it to you because it's pretty nasty, but in this little pile of succulents here, somebody let their big old dog poop just in the dead center of it. And this pile of poop, I haven't seen it for so long, this is kind of gross, I'm sorry, started to grow mold. It actually looked like it was growing black dog hair out of it, but I think it was just the fuzzy fur from the mold. But the point where I'm headed is I have not tended my garden for so long. Not only are there weeds and unwanted grass in my garden or my heart garden, but there's also like poison and poop growing there that should not be there whatsoever. And it's because I've not been attentive to it. So here's what I've got to do today. Got a couple tools out. If you look here, we've got leaves, we've got weeds, we've got clovers. So I've got to do some surgery. Probably only a little bit of superficial surgery. So I've got my leaf blower. I use that very slowly to blow the leaves out. I've got my leaf rake. Then I've got this thing called a shuffle hoe. Basically, you take it, this black thing here is just a blade, and you scratch it over the surface of the ground, and it cuts off the weeds at the top. Here's what's interesting about this. Even though the shuffle hoe is going to cut all the weeds off and eliminate the garden from looking like it has lots of weeds, the roots are actually still there. And the little takeaway I have from that is we can do all we want to clean our garden and to clean it out or clean it up. but the roots are still there. The roots of the weeds, the roots of the grass are still there, and you need a specialist doctor to come in and do some surgery. And that's where the real gardener, if you will, comes in. So I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to be able to clean up this garden, make it look absolutely spotless. It's going to look really nice, but I've got to keep tending it because the weeds are going to come back. And it's the same way in our life and the same way with our relationship with God. We've got to keep inviting the gardener to water us, to heal us, to clean us out a little bit, to weed things out that shouldn't be there. It's this residual process of self-care and also God care. So here we go. We're going to do a little bit of work and show you the garden afterwards. Okay, we're back. Yard's done. Can you see how much blacker it is and darker it is? And maybe even richer it is without all the congestion and the weeds kind of blocking things up here. Let me see if I can get another better picture. But you can see the plants a lot better, right? And there's our little dog. Hi, Lilo. All right. So, in closing, two things I noticed as I'm cleaning out the garden. I'm not a very good gardener. Two things I noticed. Forget what they are real quick. Oh yeah. So I found when I'm cleaning the garden, I want to rush it and I want to get it done. I want to make it look good. All right. So I'm not doing as thorough of a job as the real gardener would do. And I also noticed that I actually pulled a couple of the succulents up because I'm moving so quickly because I want to get the job done and want it to look good on my terms. I was actually a little bit dangerous and damaged some things. The truth is, to be honest with you, I'm actually just cleaning this up because my wife's coming home from vacation and I thought I'd like to make the yard look nice for her. So instead of me taking the diligent time to care for the garden properly and do the job right or invite the real gardener in, I just want it to look good. So I'm not doing a meticulous job pulling weeds out of the flowers and out of the plants like I should. I wasn't as careful getting the leaves out of the way. And I kind of rushed the job. I didn't do a thorough enough job, and I did a little bit of a damaging job. And I wonder if sometimes we're caught up in just wanting to make our garden look good instead of actually be healthy and good. And when we take the time to allow God to do real surgery, instead of just taking a shuffle hoe that cuts the weeds off at the surface, God actually heals the garden and makes the garden look better, not from the inside out, but from the depth up, which I guess ultimately means the inside out. All right, that's it for today. I know there was a lot jam-packed in there. I had to talk pretty fast to get it in a certain time. I'm unfortunately going to leave the garden the way it is and not do a thorough job because I've got some other things to do. All right, take care, man. Talk to you soon.